Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. In today's video I want to show a few solutions that I came up with to the challenge that Myzuma Games gave us. His challenge was to create a signal inverter using only repeaters, redstone dust and solid blocks. So then a signal inverter is basically a contraption that inverts the input signal. So this is the first system that I came up with. Well, actually, technically, it's not the first system. So like 30 minutes after watching the video, I came up with a system that was a bit bigger than this. But this is basically the same system, just rewired a bit. So as you can see, the input now is turned off, and we have an output, and the other way around as well. So now let me try to explain how the system here works. So first off, I started with this very fast-paced clock here, because Myzuma Games kind of hinted to use a system like this. My idea was to stop this clock whenever you turn on the inputs. So you can, for example, do this by clocking one of these repeaters. So right now you can already see the first problem, and that is that the clock can stop in the state where it is just powered again, and now it is not possible to start the clock up again without like breaking any blocks. Some of the time it will just end up in this jammed state, but also sometimes it will actually work. So like this, then it ends up being not powered, and this is actually what you want. So then the next step that I did is make a system which makes sure that it will always end up in this position, which was just adding this repeater right here. So with this repeater, here, it will always temporarily lock this repeater. And this means that right now the signal from this lever can only stop this clock whenever the clock is in the correct position. So then the next step was actually making a system that starts the clock up again when this lever is turned off. And this is also not that difficult, because you can make a falling edge monostable circuit with just a few repeaters like this. So what this will do is it will block this repeater whenever the lever is turned on. But when you turn this lever off, it will first unblock this repeater and then send the signal through this repeater from this repeater right here. And this will just start the clock up again. So now we have a clock that is running whenever this lever is turned off, but the clock will stop as soon as you turn the lever on. So all you have to do right now is just get a solid output from this clock, and this can be done in a few ways. The simplest way is just place 2 repeaters right here, or 3 repeaters, and the last repeater in this chain will always be permanently powered. However, Myzuma Games specifically said that we cannot use a system like this. This is, by the way, also why I knew that we had to use a fast-pacing clock. So there are some other ways to do this, which for example basically looks like this, when you get 2 repeaters that are like alternating, and right now it will always be powering this piston, either from this side or from this side. You can also see it is not like this is a fast-pacing clock where the last repeater will always be turned on, because basically if I take out one of these sides, you can see the repeater here always starts blinking. So it really needs both sides, so it's not similar to this system here. And it works fine, but it has a few bugs basically. So this system here actually is locational. So I can just move the system around a little bit, or just stack it a few times, so you will actually see that this here will not work on all places. So I can just try the system out at some different locations. So right here it works. This one works as well. Still works. Even this one is fine. And here we have the first one that does not work. So the system here does not work in all locations. I think it works in about 50% of the locations, so we actually got a bit lucky right here. But this just shows that you have to be really careful whenever you call a system like this working. And I think it's really easy to actually accidentally mess up and basically give a solution that actually is locational. So yeah, the next design here also doesn't work, and well, this one also doesn't work. Well, you get the idea. It's just a bit locational. Anyway, let's move on to the design that is not locational, which is this one over here. So instead of using 2 repeaters in order to get like an alternating output, I just use 1 repeater on 4 ticks here, with a clock that has 2 of the repeaters on 3 ticks. And I tested this system here in I think 30 different locations, and it worked everywhere, so I'm pretty certain that this will not be locational. However, because all the repeaters have longer delays, this system also is a bit less responsive, so you can see it can take quite a long time for the lamp actually to turn on and off. And also, what is a bit of a bigger issue is that this system does not always work with short pulses. So you can see sometimes the system here just gets jammed. So therefore I went on with designing, and finally I came up with this design. So this design here does actually work in a bit of a different way. Instead of having the clock and the falling edge circuit separately, I combined them and basically make a clock that has an integrated monostable circuit. So we have a clock that is running, and whenever you power it, it either stops in this state where it just gets jammed, or it will stop in this state where it's not jammed. But the cool thing now is if you turn on the power source again, it will immediately start running the clock without needing a monostable circuit on the outside. So then I just apply the same trick as earlier in order to make sure that this clock only gets stopped in a good state, which basically works like this. So now I can power this repeater whenever I want, and the clock will always start running again. So this here is a lot smaller way to actually wire this. So then I just had to get a solid output from this clock, which actually turned out to be a bit more difficult because the clock is really not as fast paced as the previous clocks. So the way I did it was actually having this locked repeater right here, and by locking this repeater at the correct timings, it will always stay on. So the total size of the system is 3 blocks by 7 blocks. And I also tested the system in like 30 different locations, and it does not seem to be locational in any way. And the system has a few more features. So first of all, it cannot break because of short pulses. So if I just input a short pulse right here, well, it will never jam the system here. And you can see sometimes it will even give an output here. Not always though. If you want the system here to always give an output, all you have to do is change this repeater here to maximum delay. And now whenever you give this like a 2 gain tick input, it will always basically be detected, and the output will also turn temporarily off. So the last feature of the system here is that it can handle a fast pacing clock, just not always. So you can see right now I have this observer clock here, and the system is just running fine, and even the output just turns on and off because obviously the input also turns on and off. But this depends a bit on where in the cycle you actually input the clock right here. So you can see it does work most of the time. It still works. Even now it is fine, but if I just repeat this long enough, I'm sure at some point it will just jam. Okay, yeah, here we have it. So it took me like 6 tries, but finally the system jammed. And that is because I started this clock on the wrong moment. So this system here is pretty much resistant to all the inputs, and it's also pretty responsive if you set this repeater here to 1 gain tick. So these were the designs that I wanted to show as a solution to my Zuma Games challenge. So a massive thanks to him for this challenge, and I will obviously also link a leaf. And I obviously also want to leave a link to his challenge in the description. Anyway, thank you for watching. See you next time.